The military has been training in the Magdalena Ranger District of Cibola National Forest for a long time. Most of us who live, work, hunt, or hike in the Bear Mountains, north of Highway 60, experience frequent low-flying helicopters and other aircraft. The noise of these machines shakes our houses and wakes us up at night. It scares wildlife and cattle. Many have also encountered ground-based training with pyrotechnics, combat simulations, dozens of soldiers traveling through the forest at night. The military wants to continue and expand its training on public land near Magdalena. It has now proposed building 3 new helicopter landing zones and increasing the number of field training exercises. Such additional training would dramatically increase the impact on local residents, wildlife, and the environment. This film documents the impacts of the existing training on some residents of the area, but there are many more stories that could be told. We call on the Forest Service and the Air Force to take steps now to stop these harmful activities. We also urge the Forest Service not to grant a permit to expand training in the Magdalena Ranger District.
On and off for 10 years, I've had this problem with the Air Force. It first started with jets. They would fly over different times of day and night and buzz my house. And Kirtland lost their fleet of jets, so that kind of went away for a while. And then the helicopters and transporters came in and started doing the same thing to me. I'm right off of 123, about a quarter of a mile, and if you count over, you have 1, 2, 3 miles, 2 miles around there to Scott Mesa. As you can see, my chair is facing south.
Right.
At one time during this time of day, I was looking out the window and I could literally see the co-pilot and pilot in that hybrid coming right at me.
Oh my gosh.
It was that low. They rattle this place just to the bone. It takes me a while to get my breathing back down and my heart rate back down, and there's just no call for it. The first year I came out here, I was sitting there and I was putting paintings up, and 7 jets buzzed me, one after the other, knocked every painting I put up and destroyed 3 of them. I was born and raised a rancher and farmer. And actually the ranchers bring in wildlife.
Yeah.
Because they bring water in.
That's absolutely.
And where you got water, you got wildlife. And you bring the military in here and government in here and you don't give them anything to drink or eat, you're going to lose them. Man, I can't take this no more. I mean, the last time I got buzzed, I thought I was having a heart attack. You know, and I got no problem with keeling over here, up here. That's my plan. You know, I kind of want to do it on my terms.
Right.
And not have the damn Air Force doing it for me. And I just come up here to live out my life and paint and leave people alone. And now I'm involved in this thing, and it's, you know, like you, I got to say something.
Right.
It's wrong.
Could you tell us a little bit about what's going on out at your home where you live, and what's happening with your family?
Well, we've got the aircrafts flying over at all hours of the night, and it just disturbing the peace and quiet.
Right.
And not only disturbing the peace and quiet, but it's damaging our walls.
If you show it, you have a picture.
And I do have a picture here. That's just one.
You have several cracks.
And we've got several cracks in the wall from from the vibration. It's an old historic house, and my grandpa built it in the late 1800s. We've had dishes fall off the shelves and the cupboards, and we've had the TV fall off the stand. Our way of life is just basically being destroyed.
Right.
And when is it going to stop?
Who all lives at your house who's affected by this?
Well, I got my mom that lives next door, and she's in her 80s,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and my wife and my son and my daughter-in-law
Mm-hmm.
who live in the other house.
Right.
And they're, you know, we're just constantly being, it's just like being harassed, I think. Now is more frequent, you know. Sometimes it's 2, 3. Will be like, or maybe 2 or 3 of the planes flying over, and it's just being more frequent.
Mm-hmm. And have they ever contacted you?
They have never contacted me. I believe that they don't have respect for our privacy.
Right. And
In our way of life, you know, we're out there, we want to be left alone.
do you figure people, you know, in your area and out in Alamo, that hunting is an important part of both their family tradition and their survival?
Yes, it's a tradition. Most people from Alamo hunt the Bear Mountains there, and it's been their way of life since as long as they've been there.
And your family has been there since this was Spanish land?
Since way back. I don't remember how many generations back.
And the people at Alamo have been there for
They've been there
1,000 years
They've
or
been there
more.
for a long time also.
And they've been always dependent on the Bear Mountains
Mm-hmm.
for part of their food and their spiritual life.
That's
Yeah?
right. I am scared of what might happen. I don't know what the military has in mind. If they would inform everybody of what's going on, I think that would be a start.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody in Alamo really knows what's going on. If we wanted all kinds of noise, we could have moved to town. That's where we enjoy living, you know, and I really think that military should practice where military bases are at.
My family's been ranching in New Mexico for like 5 generations. On my mother's side, come in with the Spaniards. We raised 4 children. We had my 2 boys were the oldest, and then my little girl Katrina, and then we adopted Paul when he was about 10, 11 years old. I myself was an orphan from the time I was 9 years old.
Oh my gosh.
So I didn't have a mom or a dad for, you know, most of my life. And so I thought we'd give something back. There was a lot of people along the way that helped me, you know, as I was growing up. And I felt like, you know, I need to help somebody, because there was people that helped me along the way. Otherwise I wouldn't be here, you know.
You have like a therapeutic program with horses for these foster children that you take in?
Well, they do the therapy through their regular therapist down in Las Cruces at Mesilla Valley Hospital. And then what we do is we bring them out on the weekends and summer to spend time here at the ranch and let them get close to the animals and the horses. Kids love it out here. When we bring them out here, you know, we sit around the campfire and we, you know, tell stories and, you know, do the marshmallows and the s'mores and, you know, the whole thing. A lot of them have never been out of the city. A lot of them have never been anywhere. Most of them, all they've ever known in their life is maybe playing a video game, and you know, and hadn't had an opportunity to be out. At first, a lot of them are very timid and kind of scared out here. They ask questions about what if the bears or the lions and this and that, but we assure them that they're safe. They really do enjoy their time out here, and they're always asking, when are we going back to the ranch?
I understand you've had some incidents with military training, and just wondering if you can go back to the first one that you can remember.
In the beginning, it wasn't as intense as it is now. The pararescue Air Force was coming out, and there was the man in charge was Sergeant Debs, and he was really good to work with. He's no longer here, hasn't been here in years, but he was the first one. He would always let us know what was going on. He would come to the house and visit, asked if there was anything we needed, and there was a lot of communication. After he left, we tried to continue that, and it didn't work. It just kept getting gradually more and more to the point where they're running out here all night with machine guns and flares going off, and airplanes flying real close to the top of the house, keeping us awake at night. So gradually it's gotten worse and worse to the point where we don't feel comfortable here. A week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, was the other exercise they had out here, where they had come in and were all around the perimeter of the house here in our private property with flashlights all through the night, shooting guns, and the children were scared. I was even scared. I knew who it was. I knew what they were doing, so I had to get my spotlight and my truck and flash them to get them away from the property. That didn't work for a while, but after about an hour of me flashing them with a spotlight and shining my truck lights at them and driving around, I think they finally got the hint and moved on over to the next canyon. The children were frightened. We were all, I couldn't, I just, like I said, it's gradually gotten worse.
And it was hard for the children to understand about this. They thought they were being attacked.
Yeah, they'd never seen, people running around the middle of the night with flashlights and guns and their faces painted up. And, you try and explain to them, these are military, they're training and stuff. But, some of your children, they see all this on TV about the terrorists and all the stuff that's going on. So that's the first thing popped in their head. They see guys running around with guns. My neighbor, Brian Tilley, he came over and he said, Johnny, do you know there's a fire out here? And this has been, I think this was last year when this happened.
Pretty recent.
And I says, a fire? So, of course out here, we hear fire and we get excited. It's like, oh God, something's going on. We don't want a forest fire up here. So when I ran down there, Brian had already shoveled it out. He had his shovel. He jumped out of the truck and shoveled it. At that time, the military personnel came up to him, and this was in the nighttime. This was at dark, and asked him why he put their fire out, and gave him a little bit of. And he says, you know what? We can't have open fires out here like this. And this was during the drought, of course. Everything's so dry and everything. He says, we can't just have you guys walk off and leave a fire. The stress on the cows, we have found where we've had cows having calves over where they camp over here in this, we call it Double D pasture, is where they put all their tents and their main command center, I guess. And we've had cows that have had calves there and have run off and left the babies. And then I've gone back and found the babies like dead, because they didn't have their mama, newborns. Usually if the calves are big enough, they're smart enough to run and get out. But we found some newborn calves that were just, basically just starved to death, I guess, because mama took off, the cows took off, and, were scared to go back and get their calves.
Right, and you had a cow that died.
We had one cow that I found. We tried doctoring her, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. She just kept getting skinnier and thinner and thinner and thinner. We gave her every medication you can imagine. We wormed her. We couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. Finally, she just wouldn't eat. And what turns out, after she died, I was curious, so I went in there and opened her up, and of course a cow has 4 stomachs, so you go in there, and I went through her to see what the digestive system was going, because that was my first clue. When she quit eating, something's going on. Well, when I opened up her rumen, there was a ball of these little white parachutes, which the Air Force shoots out here on flares all the time. The cows they're not real smart. They'll eat stuff laying on the ground. So apparently she had consumed a lot of these parachutes that were in the trees and laying on the ground, and they caused a blockage inside of her stomach and intestines and stuff. So she couldn't, pass any of her feces out or anything, and she refused to eat. And so I'm saying that was the cause of that cow dying.
Right.
My main concern is safety, as far as the kids go and stuff with these live rounds. You know, that the safety of them finding these, and some of these the kids have brought to me.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, they've picked them up off the ground, brought them, and say, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, geez." I said, "Let me have that." As you can see, this has not been fired, hasn't been shot, and this is one of my concerns because children picking these up off the ground, these have gunpowder in them. These I would think they would want back.
Right.
Well, we paid for those.
Yes, that's your tax dollars right there, all over the ground. And also on Baca Canyon, east of here, they have spray painted the boulders red, which, you know, there's a lot of artifacts out here. There's Indian camps. There's a lot of history, and you know, you don't want to see graffiti out here, and pretty much that's what it is.
Johnny, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Other than my neighbors here at Riley also have a lot of complaints as far as the ospreys. They seem to buzz the top of the houses. I mean, really close to where the whole house vibrates, the windows shake. Mm-hmm. We have another house, or we had another house here at Riley, and we moved over here to Baca Canyon to get away from all the noise and all the stuff over there. Well, now they're starting to do the same thing over here. And sometimes it sounds like they're going to land on the roof sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
They're so close, yeah.
With no concern that there's people
inside.
inside.
There's people inside asleep, you know.
Right,
and,
right.
you know,
yeah.
if you didn't know any better, you'd think it was an earthquake or something. We have lots of areas in New Mexico that are already designated military. We have White Sands Missile Range. We have McGregor Range. We have Fort Bliss, Holloman Air Force Base. All these areas, and I'm familiar with all these areas because I've been all over them when I used to work out there for the military, the years that I worked there. So I know all these areas. One argument they have is that this area resembles Afghanistan or other places where they're needing to go fight. Well, I understand that, but in San Andreas Mountains on White Sands Missile Range is almost identical to this area. I've been there. I know the areas. I had a security clearance, so I was all over that missile range, and I know what's out there, and they can't tell me that this is any different than over there.
Right.
It's the same deal.
Yeah.
The beautiful church over there at Riley with the low-flying planes that could be affected.
Yeah, you know, just the vibration on the adobe walls of the old buildings. We have the old church, which was built in the 1880s. The old schoolhouse also is right down by there. It was built back in the 1800s. So there's a lot of history. The graveyard is still being used presently.
Yes, it is.
Lawrence is going to be buried there. He still lives out here. There's a lot of the old timers that maybe don't live here anymore, but they come back to the church for celebrations, and their relatives, and you know, their grandkids, and so yeah, there is, you know, this is not an abandoned area.
Going back to White Sands, when you worked there, did the military have its own emergency services equipped to deal with the kind of accidents you can anticipate they might have?
Yes, totally. They've got all the facilities. It's amazing. Holloman Air Force Base has an awesome fire department as well. All these areas. A very good friend of mine, Tony Otero, was a fire chief at Holloman Air Force Base for his whole career until he retired, and so I knew a lot about what was going on with his fire departments there. They had to train on how to work with jet fuel. If we were to have a crash out here with jet fuel, we couldn't handle it with our little fire departments here.
You're a hard-working person, and your family's been here for 400 years, and you deserve better, and so do those foster children.
Yeah, and I also, you know, the people that have come out here and spent their whole life savings to buy these little ranches over here on Abbey Springs and Pinon Springs, they have genuine concerns and legitimate. I've worked on ranches my whole life, and my grandfather was a rancher. Everybody in my family's been farming and ranching, and it's just been a dream of ours, and it has nothing to do with money.
Right.
I just happen to be fortunate enough that God blessed me and gave me the opportunity and the strength to work hard enough to save my money and be wise enough to invest it in the right way, where I was able to continue this livelihood, you know, that most people think you're crazy. You can make more money working in town. And I said, yeah, I don't want to work in town. This is what I do, you know. So it's, you know, a lot of people would take $1 million and invest it in something and probably make $2 million, but that's not the point.
That's right.
It's not about the money. They'll be back in a little bit. said, I've been in all the cafes in town and at the Golden Spur, which is our local little tavern there, and the motels. They don't stay in the motels because they're all camped out here on my ranch, sleeping in tents. So I don't see how that's going to help the motels. As far as the cafes gone, I've seen a couple officers maybe eating in there, but the rest of the guys are eating C rations out here because they're camped out here. They're eating their military because that's why they're training out here. So I don't see them spending a lot of money in Magdalena. Yeah, I don't know. All over the place. Look at all this.
Oh my gosh.
This is look here on the ground. Look, and we spend all kinds of time. Me and my kids out here cleaning up. See them all over the ground.
I do.
They've put roads where there wasn't any roads,
Right.
and have torn up a lot of the vegetation. And of course they're cutting down trees and stuff. And we're not allowed to do it, but I guess they're above the law.
They're above the law.
They can do whatever they want, I guess.
Yeah.
These are the little clips that come off of the smoke bombs. These are the smoke bombs they throw out here. The little clip deal that goes. And if we look around, you'll probably find them.
Our pilots and soldiers deserve the best possible training. However, questions arise as to whether Cibola National Forest is the most suitable place for such training. Given that the Department of Defense already controls around 5,500 square miles of New Mexico land, we feel it should be responsible for identifying military properties more suitable for this mission. For example, the San Andres Mountains have terrains and elevations similar to that of the Bears and are completely contained by the White Sands Missile Range with its attendant resources. We therefore ask the Forest Service to reconsider allowing the military to use public land for intense training, and to focus instead on its mission to sustain the health, diversity, and productivity of the nation's forests and grasslands to meet the needs of present and future generations.